Tesla, Elon basically launched what they call the power wall. The power wall has got various different battery packs, if you can call it like that as well. And it's got between 6 kilowatt hours to 10 kilowatt hours. Now what that battery basically does, it will provide the specific client or so that kilowatt hours on backup side. It's a cost-effective thing. It's a lithium battery bank, okay, and it will last 20 years. So that's the difference. Currently we are selling what we call valve-regulated lead-acid batteries or crystalline batteries or so, which will not last that 10 years, 15 years that people are investing in. So that battery is going to change it completely as well.
From an environmental perspective, that's a game changer as well.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's been the big
because exactly to recycle that battery in 20 to 25 years versus the other technologies that you've got now, it's completely, so it's revolutionized the whole industry in battery component side and that. Look, you've still got the guys like Samsung and LG that are excellent battery guys as well, and I'm pretty sure that they were just standing behind watching and waiting to see what happened, because we all know, I knew about this battery about almost a year back or so, because Tesla is basically also very linked to what they call another company, Solar Edge, and Solar Edge is one of the inverters that we also supply in that. So we were waiting for that because they did just grid tie systems and that. And but the guys like Samsung and LG and those guys, they've also got access to lithium technology, and they've been doing it for years as well in cell phones, just in a smaller little thing. So I reckon there's going to be a massive competition still in that market, which opens it completely to us, the guy that installs it and supplies it to the client.
And the Tesla, how much more kilometers are you going to get off that type of battery as opposed to traditional?
Yeah, if you look at the Tesla car and all that stuff, if you start making a comparison of life expectancy of that battery, the Tesla car's life expectancy, also where you look at discharge rates and all that stuff, it's actually one of the worst. But it gives you 200,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
And that's where it makes sense in the car. That's why they go for that technology in the car. In this environment where we put it as an energy resource or energy backup scenario, we will get that 15 to 25 years basically thereabout or so, depending on how hard you drive that thing. But it's going to change it. It's definitely going to change.
And individuals looking to buy solar for their houses, when is the price going to become really affordable?
Yeah, the pricing is always an issue. It is actually affordable. There's two ways to that question and that. There's the affordability of having cheap solutions and cheap products in the market, which if you find the right supplier or so, he will sell you a good system, but quality of that system is so low and all that stuff, and you'll pay actually almost nothing for that system, and it will be way below what Eskom rates are on that. Then you get the good guys that are selling quality, but the pricing are still too high and all that stuff. So recently we've seen that market changing now. The PV side is on par what Eskom side is, and like I said, the battery side is the only component that takes it up. And this is why I've got a problem with clients and people selling, because what happens over here is you're selling an off-grid or backup system to a client and that. And people go and sell the off-grid system saying, listen, I want to drive my complete house or my whole factory off batteries. Come on, man. If you can get to a point where you say, listen, I've got PV generating enough power during the day, store for that 3 or 4, 5 hours for load shedding, take me through that area, then use my Eskom again as a backup maybe or so. Because then it's not peak times, it's off-peak times.
That's where you really want
exactly. So just take me through where the problems are.
Exactly.
Where the problem areas, load shedding and those things, and high peak times. High peak times is when we've got the most sun and all that stuff in the early morning, afternoons and that. Batteries, load shedding is evenings. Just take us through that. After that, we can use Eskom. We as a company, Gliimo, is not there to badmouth Eskom or so. Eskom is actually not that bad. When it comes to load shedding, yes, we are made like that. We all say, hey, Eskom, you bad. But Eskom is not bad, and that's the whole thing. Our technology basically just assists Eskom to a stage where Eskom can take that and say, listen, my dependency of my load demand in the country is now less than that because of solar technology. We can then go and push this back into economical growth, and we can have industries growing. And that will mean for us and for you more work, and people can actually have jobs.
And when you look at people feeding back into the grid, private houses, the excess, that you see a real growth in that area?
Yeah, definitely. If the area, the growth side and residential side, if you feed in basically into Eskom, the battery component will fall away, because but there will always be the challenge of a load shedding still, say for instance. But say for instance we do not have load shedding, then it makes so much sense, because you'll build credits up, you'll build energy up during the day and use that or consume that or credited that against your account and basically use it at night then, you see. So it's definitely viable. It's going to that is, I think, ultimately for South Africa, for our market, one of the biggest game changers. The battery side is going to change it as well on that, but I tell you, if Eskom and the government approves feed-in tariffs, we will see the technologies exploding.
And if you're looking at in a city environment, how can we make use of every sort of building space for solar? Because there seems to be a lot of space that could be...
Yeah, look, there was a drive by government as well, especially in Gauteng. We had a drive by Swane and all those things to use all the governmental buildings. They had something like, if I'm not mistaken, 180,000 squares, which they had government buildings, and all of the government buildings are suited because it's a flat surface on the top of it.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a little bit of chimneys and shadow problems and all that stuff that you'll have in that, but you can easily install the panels in that and utilize that and feed back into the grid as well. And this is the problem. Eskom is not only supplying the power to you as an individual directly. They normally go through the council or whatever, or so, city council and that, or municipalities or so. And then what happens is the municipality also puts their 15-20% on top of that. So now what will happen is, I would say the municipality needs to invest in this rooftop things and all that stuff, not the government itself and that. Municipalities must then generate that, and then they can sell that, and they can make more than what they are basically making on top of Eskom, because they're producing their own little energy now.
Exactly.
And maybe just take it in perspective, whereas Eskom is charging the municipality, say for instance 80 cents or so, they are selling it for R10 or whatever or so. So they're only making about 30 cents or so, which is about 20% GP.
Yeah.
So imagine they're selling it for 70 cents, then they're making like double their GP at the end.
And plus it's during the daytime, which is working hours, so
exactly.
If you have it all on the roof there,
Yes.
I mean, but if you had your whole Sundown Centre full of renewable on the roof, would that be able to supply the whole building?
Yeah, it all depends on what kilowatt hours you can generate out of your solar system. So if you've only got 20 panels and you've got a massive building, it won't do that. Then it becomes like a supplement.
But I mean, if you can fill it from each, the whole thing.
Oh yes. Solar power can drive anything basically. It depends on what inverters you are using and all that stuff as well, to basically give the amps that you need, because the power is one thing in that, but you have to have the current to support that drive or that demand or that load. And that's where the technology comes in and that. So you have to make sure that your inverters that you use are basically very good quality and that you can deliver that output for that building. Then you can drive basically anything. It's like George here by you guys now. George Airport is going solar.
Is it?
Yeah. So they will, by the end of next year or so, they will have the whole airport running on solar. No power. No power.
And if you had to get your crystal ball out, what are we going to be at in 30 years' time in terms of solar?
It's definitely the way, Greg. It's definitely the way. It's going to change. I would say the market in South Africa will change about another 2 years, 2 to 3 years, I would say, and then from there it's just going to explode in that. So in about 30 years or so, I would say, if South Africa is not at a point where we can generate 50% of our demand through our renewable energy, solar being one of it, wind farms being the other one of it, then we failed. We failed. Our resources currently, our natural resources, are not going to be there forever. The sun is always going to be there forever. The problem that we're sitting now is we're polluting our ocean. Not our ocean, but the atmosphere and that. So our sun is actually becoming the UV rays that we use and all that stuff. Exactly. So, we're going to burn in the sun more and all that stuff because we're polluting it, but it's going to actually help the solar and that as well, because now you're heating the UV rays much more. So we would be, it would be for me very bad to see in 30 years if we are not a stage where we will produce half our power.
If we had put all the money we spend into coal into solar, would we have load shedding currently?
No, never. I won't even think about it, man. And it's a question that I can answer you to no. There's no ways we can't. Look, if you look at Germany has got like 2 times less the sun than what we've got. So we've got if we work in South Africa, we work on an average of 5.5 hours per day of sunlight and that, or radiation or so. Okay. If you take then Germany is sitting then on 2.75 hours.
And they got more pollution as well.
Exactly, and they've got this whole power stations and all that stuff that they're closing now and all that stuff. But they're sitting with 2.75 hours, and I tell you now, they hit last year 50% of their production or their demand was on solar.
So how many megawatts did they manage to get out of that?
Sure, it was plenty. It was gigawatts. It was not megawatts.
Gigawatts.
Yeah. Yes.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
We're not talking gigawatts here around here.
No. America as well, Solar City, which is one of Elon Musk's companies as well, they also hit the gigawatt mark.
Is that in one? Is it big installations or lots of small installations?
No, it's residential.
Residential.
It's not even industrial, commercial, whatever. So it's residential saving 1 gigawatt.
So are we putting too much emphasis on government to sort out what our problems and not?
Yes.
We must take responsibility.
Yes. We as a person should take the responsibility. And a lot of my clients in that Greg, I tell you now, it's good if you make the sale, okay, and you can change a person's way of living and all that stuff, and see his smile of actually achieving that and saying, listen, I'm doing something that is good. I'm actually doing something that's good, not only for myself, I'm generating my own power also, but I'm doing something good that's for the nation, for the people, for the earth and all that stuff. You must see the people's joy in their faces, feeling that. It's like adrenaline. It's like adrenaline rush in that. You get this feeling in your mind and in your body. Yes, I'm actually doing something well.
So you had a successful career with Siemens. So was that the reason you got into the renewables game?
Yeah, I won't say that was the reason or so. Being an entrepreneur and all that stuff. I won't say successful being having a lot of money or whatever or so. But as a person, it enriched me which I can't believe in now. I can't explain that to you in that. But being from the Siemens in those days and going into areas where people, first of all, had security, because that's my background as an engineer on the security side of that. And that was also assisting people to make sure that they live safe and all that stuff. So there was always a thing about myself, listen, I want to make sure that I help people and all that stuff. Obviously, selling the company, we made money in the company and all that stuff, and we got money for the company and that. So there was still the opportunity there for me, or the need and the urge to say, listen, but I can't stop now. I need to drive. I like to help people and all that stuff. For me, it's not about the money. For me, it's making a change in society, a change in living, a change in myself, a change in my friends, my family and all that stuff, and being able to go and develop and research this technology and bringing it across and all that stuff, and being one of the guys that actually know what he's doing and talking about, and that is for me the thing. Yeah, that's what drives me.
You bring an interesting point. So what are the biggest misconceptions you try to advise your clients on when they're getting into installing solar?
Yeah, that's the two that we spoke about. The scenario about firstly is where you want to go to backup or to off-grid scenarios, and that is a complete, how can I say, people are misinformed completely on that. There is no ways that you can look at an electricity bill either and say, listen, you need X amount of kilowatt hours. You can see that on the bill, but there is a difference when it comes to the electrical engineering side. People will tell you get spikes in a system and that. So when your appliances or when your geyser or when your oven switch on, there's a big demand that you need to be able to cover. Now, if I say to you, okay, I'm putting in a system that's 16 kilowatt hours or so, 3 kilowatt or so, what's going to happen is if that peak goes above 3 kilowatt peak, your system will trip. So what's the use of having that system? You're going to sit with the same problem as what you do with load shedding. You'll have to wake up or stand up and go and change your circuits and basically reset it and start the whole system over again. So that is one. People are misinformed about the size of the system and what the capabilities are of the system and what the capabilities of the hardware is supplied by the supplier as well in that. So a lot of guys say, okay, I can buy a regulator, I can buy a battery, I can buy a PV inverter, and I'll buy 2 panels and I'll put it down. It's not a plug and play. Solar technology is not a plug and play. And for the clients that out there and for the people out there, if there's companies that are selling it as a plug and play, stay away from them, because you are going to burn your fingers in that. In 2 or 3 years, or even 6 months after you've bought the system, you're going to say, listen, yeah, I spend a lot of money and this system is actually tripping every second day or whatever, saying it's not giving me the power that I need. So that is the first thing that people are misinformed. And the second thing is on quality side. You cannot be, can I say it like that, a bricklayer or so, and expect and think you can install solar or so. There's a lot of things and calculations that go together with the system. Just by short, I can name 2: orientation and angles,
Exactly.
shadows, chimneys,
Trees.
creating trees and all that stuff. You know, people will go to site and they say this beautiful north-facing roof, and there's a chimney right in the middle. That chimney, if you do 2 strings, that chimney is going to cast shadow in the morning, shadow in the afternoon, and those panels that are there will be affected 110%. So that generation of that panel, where it should have got proper efficiency like in the 90s or so, because the orientation is right, it will be actually almost here close to 20 to 30% because of the shadow that it creates. So there's a lot of things that people, you know, that the fly-by-night companies will fail on, and that will damage the solar industry.
And for people who aren't tech savvy, say they've got it installed from you guys, practically, how easy is it to run the system?
It's actually, to run the system runs by itself. So again, the quality and the product that you use, where we use SMA or Solar Edge now, that specific inverters at the end of the day, you set it up according to the client's requirements. When that setup is done and that configuration is done, you leave. It will run by itself. It's got proper EEPROMs built in, it's got memory cards built in, so if something goes wrong or so, something happens and it starts up again, all the settings are there. It's not that the setting goes or whatever or so. So it then can also manage it. So it monitors what the load in is, what the load out should be and all that stuff, and it will decide. It is a brain, it's the heart of the system. It will decide to say, listen, yeah, switch on, I do not have enough production on PV, switch on the batteries. I do not have enough battery power from the PV side as well, switch on ESCOM or switch on a generator. So there's a lot of things that that system can do.
And the solar water heater geysers have been a big bone of contention. What's the story with that whole thing?
Yeah, that is a problem. I think we can all say Carte Blanche was one of the guys that exposed this problem with solar heaters and all that stuff, and we had all the government initiatives about solar geysers and all that stuff. And that basically started this misconception of what solar is about. A solar geyser on top of your roof or so is not solar. It's a thermo type of change in that. Okay, what happens is not 100% as what you call on the technology side in that, but what happens is basically you've got a reaction with water going through pipes and that's used by the sun, by heat. It's not done by UV rays or whatever also. So it's completely 2 different technologies that you are talking about. And unfortunately those installers, what they happened is they installed these geysers and it was a dismal failure in the country. And everybody complained about it, never worked, you see water leaking out and all that stuff. And then people associated the term solar with this technology that is available today, which is photovoltaic solar. Okay, and now people are saying, listen, yeah, we don't trust this technology, and that is the problem that we've got. We firstly started to say, listen, yeah, let's do a few projects, let's do a few installations. We do not care about profit or so. And what we try to do is bring the attention to people doing the quality installation, letting the customer get out there and talk, because our marketing is based on the customer itself and that. We're not a door-to-door knocking people, company and all that stuff. So our marketing was based on getting those people that we've serviced and installed.
Word of mouth.
Exactly.
In your game, that probably spreads fast.
Exactly, and it does. And obviously Eskom is one of the corporates that help us with that as well, because they are also not delivering at the end of the day. So Eskom is basically helping us in the sense with load shedding, and our client with our good quality and good service, and that is spreading the news. And they're saying, listen, go and use Gliimo, go and use this company, they are the company to help sort you out.
And if I came to you tomorrow looking to set up my house to get at least 80% off the grid,
yes.
How can you put a dollars and cents figure on
yeah.
how much that would cost?
Look, there's a market related price in that. I'm not going to say to you exactly what I'm going to charge in that, but there's a market related price in that. If you want to go grid tie, which is basically a supplement at the end of the day, power will not be generated if there's load shedding in the device or so. Okay, so it's load shedding, the grid tie inverter switches off as well. And that's according to our laws that we've got.
Isn't that a waste of
it is.
good energy?
It is. The reason why they say they do that, Greg, we can talk about that quickly, is the problem is because you're working on a grid tie system. So what grid tie system does is PV generates power and it produces power now through the inverter, and that is basically fed into your DB board or distribution board, and that's connected straight in parallel with Eskom. So they've purely done this as a manufacturer. They went worldwide and said, okay guys, we do not want people to get killed. So service technicians, like in our case, Eskom goes out and they work on the main board outside.
Yeah.
And we are feeding back, and they think they isolate, but they do not isolate because we're generating power.
Yeah.
Power is bi-directional, so we're actually feeding towards the grid. And that's the reason why they said, if the grid, your inverter does not pick up grid or syncs with the grid, it must also switch off.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why they did it. So that, if we look at grid tie, then that is an average of about 20 Rand per watt. So a 10 kilowatt system or so will cost you 10,000 basically times 20. So it's 200,000 Rand then. Am I right to say that? Yeah? Yes? I think so. So it's basically the 20 Rand mark, and that for what on the grid tie side. When you get to the battery side, it is going to improve now currently with the new latest technology that's launched in the world. We will most probably sit around about 45 Rand a watt there for off-grids.
And how many watts would you need for a family house?
A good family house and all that stuff. The issue with it, it's difficult to say that, and that was in my interview. You cannot say that because I do not know. Do you have solar geysers, thermo geysers, or whatever? Do you have heat pumps?
Yeah.
Those things. But a give and take, a 3 kilowatt system. If you manage your oven, maybe a gas hob, and you've got some sort of a thing going with your geyser, either PV using a PV and changing the element in the geyser itself and use that to heat up, or going thermo, or going heat pumps or so, a 3 kilowatt system will be more than enough. Those three components, if you do all of them together, a 3 kilowatt system will take you for 25 years, no problem whatsoever.
A heat pump must suck more than any other appliance.
Heat pump is about 700-800 watts or so if you buy the decent ones. Versus if you take a heat pump and you convert your geyser with a heat pump, that geyser is a 3 kilowatt element and will take the heat pump at 800 watts. So the 800 watts is much better than the 3,000 watts in that. But there's a new technology now out as well, in that what they do is they basically use a PV cell, 3 panels basically, change your geyser has got an element, take that element out, put a DC AC element in, and use the sun that you generate power to actually heat up the element. And that conversion is way cheaper. There's less pipe work, no actually pipe work or so. It's just by taking out the element, putting in a new element, and that's it. So if you do those 3 things, your geyser, your oven, your stove, not so much your oven because we do not cook anymore that much in the oven. In the old days, yes, we had our leg of lamb or whatever or so. But these days, maybe we'll use the oven maybe once a week or so. The hob is gas, and then basically your geyser, and that is sorted out then. Those 3 things, no problem. 3 kilowatt. Anything going bigger is 5 kilowatt or so, and the biggest that we've done in residential, but then I'm talking about a luxury house that's got 6-7 rooms, 3-4 bathrooms, a study and all that stuff, was 10 kilowatt. So yeah, so it's, for me, my house is a 5 kilowatt. It's a good area to start. You can go lower as well in that if you go the 3 bedroom, 2 bedroom scenarios or so. 2-bedroom, you can even go maybe to a 2 kilowatt system.
And solar versus wind, the solar seems to be getting better sort of reviews, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say my personal opinion about wind, and wind, fortunately here by you guys, you sit with a lot of wind, so it does make sense to go wind.
Isn't it not as reliable?
Yeah, the reason why I don't like it is personally because there's moving parts.
Yeah.
And so there's a more maintenance aspect to it. And that's the reason why I don't like wind turbines or so. I believe in wind turbines and the technology and the benefit that you can get out of it, don't get me wrong, but the problem is on the maintenance side. I want to install a system and all that stuff, or own a system where I don't have to go and check what the main gear bearing is doing, is it nicely greased, all those type of things. And you can see even here by you guys with the wind, drive along the highway, you've got the small wind turbines, there's maybe 3 or 4 working, then you've got 5 or 6 that's not working.
Like what is that? What's that all about?
So for me personally, I believe in the technology, but I do not want to do that because I believe maintenance is a much bigger what you call in that than what solar PV is.
And do you think we've grasped how big this thing can be for the economy?
No. We haven't even come. I don't think people out there understand the impact that we can create with solar, with PV in South Africa and that. How many jobs we can create basically in this country and that. What we can do for our economy growth in that. What we can say, listen here, we will assist people so that South Africa grow and all that stuff, not only on the economy side and that, but as a person as well, giving us much more opportunities in life and that. And yes, people haven't understand what solar can bring to us yet. No.
And are there any downsides to these big solar farms in terms of a glare factor and all that kind of stuff?
No. There's definitely always going to be a glare factor. There will be always a heat factor as well in that because the panels do get heat up and all that stuff as well in that. Because of the sun, it stands the whole day in the sun and that. But it's not going to be in the case where, listen, I have to walk around in 10 years with shades because we've got so much glare that,
I suppose in the middle of the hour or something, so
yes.
There anyway.
Yeah. Plus, if you refer back to that farming side and you go to residential side and that, the panels of today, it's more the aluminium side that's got the glare factor than what the physical panel itself creates and that. So that's not that bad, man.
Finally, your plans for the business in the next 5 years? World beaches, of course.
Yeah, look, we want to, Greg, we want to be the front runner. We want to be the residential solar leader in South Africa. My plan in 5 years is basically that we dominate this market in the residential side. This is why we went so far into the studying of the equipment, what the effects is and how we can improve the system to make it viable now already for the society and for the client outside there. So yeah, I would say dominance is the way in 5 years. That's where we want to be.